Hi there. This is the tarot for January 2026, brand new year. That new year has begun or soon will. Maybe it has where you are. And it comes with a sense of renewal and an attitude of, yeah, let's get back to work and do something new and good. So I hope you're back to work and loving it. Okay. One of the many things I heard recently that stuck in my head was the statement, I think, by Baba Vanga. I'm not sure that was the right name. That this would be the year that the voice of the planet Earth would rise. And I could not get that out of my mind. So that became the first question for this month. Then I kept thinking about the electric grid in the US, and that became part of a second question, actually the main part of the second question. A question to the animal kingdom about Trump, Putin, and Xi dynamics was the third question. And the last question to the plant kingdom, what advice did it have for us, resulted in a whopper of a card draw. Ooh. So the questions are, number one, if 2026 is the year that the voice of planet Earth will rise, what will she say to us? Number two, if the U.S. electric grid is in need of an updated and more powerful source of energy, what is the best path for securing and supplying that energy in a reliable manner? Number three, what advice does the animal kingdom have for us regarding the dynamics of the relationship between Trump, Putin, Xi, and their countries? And number four, what advice does the plant world have for us in January? And the cards drawn were, for question number one, the Queen of Cups. For question number two, I got the Two of Swords. Yeah, problems here. Question number three, for question number three, I actually drew three cards. One for Trump, that brought the snake. Putin got the alligator. And Xi Jinping got the spider. Wow, these are some powerful totems in the animal world. And then for the plant world, I got, this is an even bigger wow, I got dragon's blood. Whoa. So let's look a little deeper here. What did we get? Question number one. If 2026 is the year that the voice of planet Earth will rise, what will she say to us? The card drawn here was the Queen of Cups. And not surprisingly, this is the card of the great Mother Earth, often referred to as Mother Nature. What a synchronicity. We see that all the time in the tarot. You ask a question, you get exactly the right card. So this card carries a powerful message that communicates two important things for us to think about. One is the reminder that she holds all of us in her lap. Be aware. The other is that she will not hesitate to express what she is feeling, and what she is feeling is a direct reflection of whatever is coming from us, the people scratching around on her surface. The more upset or violent we become, the more upset or violent she will be. Ooh. So on this card, the queen wears a crown made of light and a flowing light blue robe. She sits at the edge of the water on a throne made of a gigantic seashell. In her hands, she holds a large and very ornate chalice, and at her feet is an array of colored stones. There are a number of small figures representing angels, elves, fairies, water nymphs, all carved into the throne, or sculptures standing around the edge of the chalice. A steep cliff can be seen in the background, and the sky is light blue. So that big ornate chalice held by the queen symbolizes Mother Earth's ability to hold the souls of all humanity in such a way that their individuality is a safe and protected right. The chalice symbolizes that this earth is a realm where each person can be unique and interdirected, but the burden of that uniqueness is the demand that we develop emotional integrity. Emotional integrity means understanding what we are feeling, why we are feeling that way, and expressing ourselves honestly and accurately without violence or blame. In fact, the Queen of Cups represents learning to express the self truthfully while giving birth to new forms, new talents, new identities, and new life. Something that I think would be very useful at this point in our history. That array of colored stones at the Queen's feet are known as stumbling stones. And this represents the Great Mother's acknowledgement that life on this planet is challenging. There will be many stumbles and obstacles that will have to be cleared away, and that can only be cleared away through emotional truth. Those angels, elves, fairies, and nymphs represent that there's a greater world full of unseen help out there available to us if we will just reach out, learn to communicate with them. Doing so, of course, requires emotional maturity and a willingness to open up the self to new ideas and new possibilities. The throne that the Queen is sitting on backs up this need to be open to what is new. That throne is a giant seashell that symbolizes the need to see and be aware of empty promises and delusions that offer only the shell of illusions, but nothing of lasting substance. It also represents the need to remain open, patient, and unprejudiced without becoming indifferent. In the tarot card system, queens are at the top of the power structure. If our question is about the voice of the earth and what she might say, this card is a message reminding us that she is the all-powerful one who carries us forward and gives us everything we need. That crown made of light on her head tells us that we should consider aligning ourselves with the light, that living in the light, working with the light, and using our consciousness in alignment with the light is the crowning glory of life. The Queen of Cups often shows up when there are some big things at stake. And this Queen of Cups, is closely related to three other cards that include the Ten of Swords, the Two of Cups, and the Three of Cups. These are themes that run in the background of what she's saying regarding the earth. So when you stop to consider the message of these cards as part of the voice of earth, what you see is the Ten of Swords saying you've reached the end of all idols and idolatry. That means chasing things that really don't matter, believing in things that are illusions. They aren't real. We're at the end of that period of time. So have we been focused on the wrong things? Have we forgotten where our true security rests? One important aspect of this queen is her reminder, as above, so below. Is she telling us that our confusion, anger, fighting, and chaos will be reflected in her behavior, and that has the power to disrupt all of us? The Two of Cups message. It carries a message. It says that spiritual polarization has taken over. And since this represents basic energies, cups are basic energies, emotions are basic energies, the Great Mother may be saying we simply must find a new way of recognizing and coping with the conflicts we are caught in. Polarization is not going to help. And then the Three of Cups brings the message that great challenge brings great opportunity. The opportunity is for a renewal of ideas of togetherness and independence within a group. However, this is a card in which boundaries can be lost if people do not listen. This backs up the Queen of Cups, who also carries the message, behave or your boundaries will be dissolved. And no one has the power to disrupt boundaries, coastlines, and countries like Mother Earth. There are also the boundaries of our personal rights, many of which have been violated already. We don't want to become a hive mind. We don't want to be people controlled by somebody else. Evolution is what we want, the freedom to evolve. So cups are the symbol of water and emotions. The light blue robe worn by the Queen represents a need to connect with the water, which means connect with our emotions. The human body is at least 80% water. And this need to communicate with water means we need to reconnect with ourselves, our health, our feelings, and then learn to express those feelings openly and with dignity. The light blue sky then calls for clarity. So the Queen of Cups carries the warning or the advice, really, it's a little bit of both, that she's committed to three vital impulses. One is conservation, two is reproduction, and three is evolution. This tells us that we really need to change lifestyles in such a way that what she offers us is preserved. That's the conservation. That what she offers us is allowed to work naturally and keep itself going. That's the reproduction. And that what she offers us evolves into higher states of consciousness, emotions, and deep love. That's the evolution. And that cliff in the background, that's a warning saying we have to watch where we are going and learn to see and hear the signs she is giving us, lest we suddenly step off or fall off that cliff. Her message to all is all of your skills as a human being with a wealth of feelings and emotional intelligence are needed at this time. Why? Again, as above, so below. The voice of the earth may reflect exactly what we are feeling, and that may end up doing something we do not like and cannot easily deal with. Key words for the Queen of Cups are sensitive, patient, water in powerful motion, inner life, dissolution or loss of boundaries, success, wisdom, intelligence, gift of vision, concerns about trust, perversity, vice, dishonor, and duplicity. Question number 2. If the U.S. electric grid is in need of an updated and more powerful source of energy, what's the best path for securing and supplying that energy in a reliable manner? And the Two of Cards, or the Two of Swords, was the card drawn here. A card that carries a rather blunt warning involving, quote, failure to grasp an issue, end quote. This card represents a need for clear thinking rooted in the heart that allows us to see what is outside the normal frame of everyday attention. People are generally not paying attention to this issue. When I asked the card or asked the question and drew the card, I was hoping that maybe I would draw something indicating that the grid it's okay and there's very little to worry about. However, this card verifies that we do have a problem, and part of that problem is the refusal to see what is actually changing around us, possibly because a variety of smokescreens and distractions have been in the way. We all have a lot of stuff to be, to be dealing with, a lot of stuff on our minds. So this card shows a figure sitting on what appears to be a stone or cement bench at the edge of the water. There are outcroppings of rocks seen in the water behind him, and a distant shore is visible. The figure is blindfolded. He's wearing a long gray robe and yellow shoes. The figure holds a sword in each hand, and his arms are crossed over his chest. There's a small dot of white on the forehead over the third eye. The tips of the swords are outside the frame of the card. There's a sickle moon in a dark blue sky, and the ground around the figure is gray. So the blindfold on the figure is arguably the most striking part of this card because it represents not seeing and therefore not able to assess the immediate reality of a situation. Since the question is about our electric grid and what's the best way to secure sufficient energy for ourselves, the Two of Swords says that not enough people are aware of the problems of the electrical grid or the need to begin taking action to fix that problem. The rocks sticking out of the water behind the figure symbolize that there are a few people who are awake and aware of the problem, but they aren't connected or bridged in any way. Swords represent the intellect and the world of the mind. The number 2 is a creative number, very creative number, that could bring a wonderful solution if that creativity were to be applied appropriately. However, the fact that the sword tips are outside of the frame indicates that not only have we not yet found solutions that could supply the world with enough electricity for everyone, we may not yet have developed the science that would be needed to easily produce the required amounts. Hundreds of millions of people still do not have access to electricity. And I think somewhere between 1 and 2 billion do not have access to around-the-clock, 24-hour electricity. Their electricity comes on for a few hours every day and gets turned off at night. So, that's surprising for those of us who live in an electrified world. But this card says that we have not done enough research into new sources of power. And this amounts to something of an indictment of the sources of energy we already currently have, including green energy sources like solar and wind. None of them fall into the category of energy supplier of the future because we have not yet even discovered or developed that new energy. The figure dressed in gray symbolizes either the detachment of most people from the reality of the issue, and gray represents an attitude of apathy, lack of interest. So those yellow shoes tell us that a very small number of people have been moving in a direction that would help solve the issues around a new source of energy, but that gray ground that reveals no action. Thus, the distant shore, which would represent discovering, designing, and building an entirely new grid infrastructure, is still a long way off. The figure on the card is sitting on a stone bench, which indicates that any attempts to deal with the grid problem may have to be benched or set aside for now, possibly due to stonewalling of any efforts to implement something new. The white patch on the forehead of the figure on the bench hints that a reasonable solution to the problem of energy and electricity for all may have to come from a practical vision that comes from beyond the physical world and systems now in place. It may just come in the form of a vision or a flash of insight. That sickle moon and darkened sky represent conditions of low light and indicate difficulty seeing how to make any progress. The dark sky and moon also symbolize dealing with people who are prejudiced or biased in some way, and getting past them could be an obstacle to the evolution of science and humanity. If the grid is working well enough at this time, anything new just might have to wait until things are not working and the balance of daily life has been completely upset. Now, that's not the best way to do things, but when vested interests are in the way, it might be the only way to move forward. Swords are the weapons of the intellect, and they symbolize the need for a broader intellectual horizon regarding energy. The Two of Swords is known as the Lord of Peace, but here's a quote of what this card represents. The operations, quote, the operations of those who are helping the miserable and the weak against the powerful and the wicked, as well as those who reject the oppression of the needy by the powerful and unjust, end quote. Ooh. It is sometimes surprising to realize that not everyone in our world has electricity, and that may be deliberate decisions on the part of somebody. The Two of Swords calls for fair thought and impartial planning. It encourages research and exploration, and it reminds us reality does not consist of one-way streets, just being told what to do, throwaway solutions, no, you can't have that right now, or disposable people. Everyone matters. It's also a card of the crossroads, symbolized by the arms crossed over the chest. It suggests balancing forces and putting something into action now could prevent a crisis or avoid hitting a limit. If that crisis or limit were to be the failure of the electrical grid, then foresight and early planning now would seem to be the height of common sense and harmony. Keywords for the Two of Swords are mental activity, crossroads, analysis, strategy, communication, decision-making, fluid, adaptable, partnerships, instability, tension, dilemma, need for negotiation, and put it into action. Question number 3. What advice does the animal kingdom have for us regarding the relationship between Trump, Putin, Xi, and their countries? So I drew 3 cards for this question, 1 card for each leader. So the snake came up for Trump. The alligator came up for Putin. And the spider came up for Xi. These are powerful totems in the animal kingdom and indicate some interesting dynamics between the 3 men and the results for their countries. Wow. So the snake, representing Donald Trump, carries the message of transmutation. Snake medicine people are very rare, and Trump is one of a kind for sure. These people are able to survive multiple snake bites and turn that poison into something creative and healing instead of something destructive. Snakes also represent the awakening of consciousness and deep healing. Their message encourages wholeness and the willingness to experience everything without resistance. No resistance. The snake teaches that any poison can be eaten, digested, integrated, and transmuted into wisdom if one has the proper state of mind. The alligator, representing Vladimir Putin, carries the message of integration, patience, and timing. Alligator medicine is primal energy that teaches the need for long-term goals. It says that reaching for those goals may bring both pleasure and pain. And it teaches one to examine the facts, look at all sides of the problem, and make sure you understand the whole situation before making any moves. Rashness is discouraged, as are rigidity and anything that smacks of a quick fix. Alligator medicine teaches that long-term goals are essential if you want to avoid the quagmire of many human games based on limited perception. And the third card was the spider, representing Xi Jinping. This carries the message of creativity and the weaving of fate. People carrying spider medicine are those who weave whole new worlds while teaching the mysteries of the past. Spider medicine often appears to be difficult, even poisonous, but spider is a symbol of great creative power, assertiveness, and the linkage. Spider holds the links between past, present, and future. Spider is also the guardian of the ancient languages and the important formulas for humanity's evolution. The spider is linked to the energies of honor and fame, and it teaches that balance with nature is key. It's key because it allows you to move with the ebb and flow of life, because everything you do today is weaving what you will experience and encounter tomorrow. So when you put these three people together and you look at the insight into their relationships and dynamics that the animal kingdom is offering, what we see first is that the Trump-Putin-Xi dynamics will result in transmutation for Trump and the US. This transmutation will result in a complete change of our status as world hegemon or world bully to a country where wisdom and awakened consciousness are the norm. This is the symbol of awakened consciousness. Snakes shed their skin when they outgrow it, and this symbolizes that we may shed the form of governance we started with. Regarding Putin and Trump, the Putin-Trump-Xi dynamics will result in the integration of Putin and Russia into the greater community of nations. No longer will Russia be treated like an outsider, like a pariah or an enemy. Russia has wanted to be part of the family of nations for forever. Alligator eyes are set high on the gator's head. And that symbolizes that Russia may lead the world forward and up into a whole new level of existence, stabilizing us in clairvoyance, higher vision, and a new world based in spirituality. As for Xi and China, the Trump-Putin-Xi dynamics will result in the weaving of an entirely new and creative China that blends history, tradition, and evolution beautifully. Spiders tend to kill and eat their partner after mating. Then they weave a whole new web. This teaches that China will tend to withdraw from the Western partners they have had over the past decades and revamp itself, balancing the past and the future while aligning with the rhythmic ebb and flow of nature, a move that will inspire many. Two of the animal cards drawn represent reptile energies that are extremely primal. These creatures survived the great extinctions of the dinosaurs. This gives those survivors a sensitivity to environments that is unmatched. These creatures tell us that Trump and Putin have a hair trigger sensitivity to the moods of their people, and each has learned to use those sensitivities and moods in vastly different ways. Trump is mercurial and unpredictable. Putin is solemn and keenly aware. And both have the tough skin of a reptile, allowing criticism and barbs to just bounce off. So the third animal card drawn to represent Xi Jinping indicates that Xi is much more delicate than either Trump or Putin. Spiders are very, very delicate, and if you drop one, it will often break and die if it has not had a chance to attach a silken thread, to something and use that thread to soften its landing. The spider indicates that of the three leaders and their three countries, China will undergo the most dramatic change. China appears right now to be strong and resilient, and it has a long history of experience that it can draw from. And this may be the ace that allows it to survive and evolve. Together, these three cards indicate that the U.S. may withdraw into a cocoon-like state while responding to internal rebuilding and changes in many sectors, from education and medicine to science, technology, and beyond. Russia will blossom and stabilize while becoming a stronghold of common sense and practicality. It will become an anchor for the world. And China will weave an entirely new version of itself based on a new openness of language and truth. It will be the keeper of ancient history and the protector of nature, both of those brought to bear as lessons in what works and what doesn't. Question number 4. What advice does the plant world have for us in January? And the card drawn here was number 51 in the Herbal Astrology Oracle, Dragon's Blood, which symbolizes the start of an initiation that will lead to the unveiling of the world's soul. Sometimes you have to unveil something in order to heal it. Dragon's blood is a very powerful plant that works in tandem with Pluto and Scorpio. Oh my. And it's used still, it's a staple in indigenous cultures, used to prevent or stop internal bleeding, halt infection, and bring spiritual healing. Spiritual healing occurs when one comes to grips with the events of life and makes wise decisions about how to respond and what to do next. The fluid of this plant in dragon's blood looks just like blood. It's a deep, dark red, and it represents merging with the divine self within, which then leads to access to the world soul. The world soul is a great mass of consciousness coming from the entire population and what the people are feeling at any given moment in time. Access to this knowledge brings the ability to make good choices. It allows one to avoid feeling lost and confused or caught in the snares of dark magic being conjured and projected in every direction. Dragon's blood has long been a symbol of strength and shielding against people with selfish or harmful intentions. It's also used to bring people together to use their power in the face of serious challenges, even if those challenges look vast and very difficult. We are encouraged to reconnect to our ancestors and borrow some of their strengths and willingness to confront what is not working. One of the gifts of Dragon's blood is opening the hidden door to the void. Even one instant in the void changes everything forever because it reveals occult knowledge, highlights inner truths, and brings inspiration that highlights the path to safety, renewal, and reconnection to one another and to the earth. The void does not bring instant answers to one's problems. However, it does bring a wildly expanded creativity and permission to do what must be done. The message from Dragon's blood is that we have been bleeding internally, oozing blood slowly in a way that saps belief in our own power and therefore our energy as a population. It warns that Mother Nature has been bleeding as well, and that is a danger to all. It reminds us that we are sharing the journey through this world, and it's meant to be a creative journey that moves forward only through acts of great courage based in love. In the Christian religion, the dragon is seen as something evil and sinful. However, that is because dragons have their feet on practical ground and cannot be fooled by lies and propaganda. The teachings of the early Christians insisted on belief only. Belief only. Can I say it a third time? Belief only. They did not want anyone to use evidence, critical thinking, or practical common sense to criticize what they were teaching. And what they were teaching was that only belief was necessary to make something real. But dragons live deep in the pockets of the ethers, and they have very sharp eyes and a tongue that speaks hot, fiery truths, and a tail that can sweep away illusions, delusions, frauds, or conmen in one fatal flick. Dragons have long been the symbol of the fierce reality we are immersed in. The initiation brought by dragon's blood has everything to do with bringing a population together to address the ills of reality that have become intolerable, all while we were being distracted by an elaborate charade taking place right in front of us. So that's it for this tarot reading. Let's summarize what we've said about this month of January. Question number 1 was, if 2026 is the year that the voice of planet Earth will rise, what will she say to us? The Queen of Cups was the card drawn here, and not surprisingly, this is the card of the Great Mother Earth. She holds a large ornate chalice in her hands, symbolizing the fact that we are all held in the lap of the earth, where we can become unique, single individuals, each of us moving and unfolding according to our own inner direction. The payment for that freedom to be is the demand that we develop emotional maturity and maintain integrity. The Queen acknowledges that we will often stumble, and the most common stumble is the mistake of focusing and chasing after the wrong things, These are the idols of life, things that violate the Great Mother's commitment to conservation, reproduction, and evolution. If this is not corrected, we could fall off the cliff and into complete destruction. Question number 2 was, if the U.S. electric grid is in need of an updated and powerful source of energy, what's the best path for securing and supplying that energy in a reliable manner? And the Two of Swords was drawn here and symbolizes failure to grasp an issue. Not only are too few people paying attention to the issues building around the electrical grid, but we may not even have done the scientific research that would lead us to discover the material or its applications that would lead to a plentiful and secure supply of electricity for the entire world. This card hints that even if we have discovered something that would expand possibilities for more electricity, there may be vested interests that are stonewalling any attempts to implement it. Question number 3, what advice does the animal kingdom have for us regarding the relationship between Trump, Putin, and Xi and their countries? And for this, I pulled 3 cards and got the snake for Trump, the alligator for Putin, and the spider for Xi. What these cards revealed is that the U.S. will shed its old political, financial, and cultural structures to become a completely new and transmuted country. Russia will finally be accepted and integrated into the community of nations, such that it is no longer the enemy or the pariah. Instead, it will become the anchor of common sense and a much more spiritual consciousness. And China will reconnect to its ancient past and will weave an entirely new world for itself and its future, one connected to nature, which will greatly influence and inspire the whole world. And question number 4, what advice does the plant world have for us in January? And dragon's blood was the plant offering advice this month, telling us we are entering a period of initiation that will reveal the world soul. And that may be a little bit painful. Its message is that the world soul, which is the conscious heart of the people of Earth, is bleeding internally, oozing blood slowly that saps our energy as a cohesive population. The initiation brought by dragon's blood has everything to do with bringing a population together enough to address the ills of reality that have become intolerable. We are encouraged to stop allowing ourselves to be distracted by the elaborate charade taking place right in front of us. Dragon's blood tells us, open the door to the void in order to achieve spiritual healing. It tells us, reconnect to our ancestors and borrow their courage, their strength, and their purpose as we move forward. Reality is a fierce dragon, and we cannot survive on illusions or fairy tales. So that's all for this month, and I hope you can take some of the wisdom of the cards and use it in your own life. Thank you for listening so much, and have a warm, wise, and inspirational January. Take care.